You're listening to Leading Voices Shaping Middle East Business and Economy. I'm Amjad Ahmad, and this is empowerME Conversations. Let's jump in. Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us. Today's empowerME conversation is with a remarkable entrepreneur who has built a leading language service provider in the Middle East, Tarjama. In the last 10 years, she has expanded the company to 8 markets with over 400 employees, of which an astonishing 90% are women. Welcome, Nour.
Thank you, Amjad. Thank you so much for having me.
We're glad to have you. I want to kick off by talking about your entrepreneurial journey. So, you have a law degree, you're working, you're doing well, and then you decide to jump in the deep end. What made you become an entrepreneur?
It was a complete coincidence. So as you know, I was working for an NGO in Jordan after I graduated, and most of our work, as most consultants, used to happen in English. And whenever we used to translate, it was always a struggle with timeline, with quality. So I spotted an opportunity there, and I started the business on the side. And when honestly, I have to be very honest, I did not build the business model around women, or thought of like just I want to have females in the business. But when I started looking for talent back in Jordan, it was so difficult to find the best like resources that are both bilingual, English and Arabic. Fluent English and Arabic, basically resources. So I started looking at and the recommendations came for some of the females that are basically looking for jobs that give them some flexibility and remote to be able to work from home. And as you know, like the power of network when it comes to females is very strong. So we started receiving a lot of recommendations, and one woman would bring the other. And I tapped into really a gold mine, because most of these females were PhD graduates, MBAs, master's degrees, fluent English and Arabic, sitting at home and actually without any jobs. So they started working with us, which helped the business model as well to remain lean. In the early days, we didn't have offices. We were all working from home. Before, working from home was actually cool.
Right. Now everybody's doing it. And
exactly.
And what was the environment like in Jordan? I mean, you started your business in Jordan. What was the ecosystem? I mean, there was probably no ecosystem, but
no
what
ecosystem.
was it like? Right.
Actually, Amjad, I bootstrapped the business from 2008 until 2019, when I had the first investor join the company. And because when I started in Amman back then, even after moving to the UAE, there was no ecosystem that actually looked after entrepreneurs the way the ecosystem is built now, or the environment. So it was like literally just I started the business, and I didn't really think about it like how am I building the business. I found the females, and I started looking for customers immediately, and I was expanding the network by business development. The second I land more clients, or a new language, or a new set of service, I would expand that line. So it was like without any planning.
Very fluid, very natural.
Totally organic.
And what prompted the decision to move to the UAE from Jordan?
So when I started with clients in Amman in the early days, and then I felt I need to expand, because I had basically some friends in Abu Dhabi, and it was the real estate boom back then. Although recession happened in 2008, we didn't really feel it immediately on the business. The business was still going on. A lot of construction was happening. A lot of real estate companies were still building. So I came to Abu Dhabi, and I had no idea why I'm going, who I'm meeting. And I landed, like there was a big conference exhibition that used to happen for real estate in the UAE. Still happens actually all the time. So I went there, and I started visiting booths. From one booth to the other, I actually asked people around, who's the marketing person, the comms person. I collected business cards, very traditional old way. And then I started offering the service. And to my knowledge, when I like, it was surprising when I used to tell clients, by the way, I have a pool of women that work from home. They're really talented. Everybody like gave me this look from that like corporate world. Women working from home. Oh my God, that's going to be really a terrible service. We don't know. We don't know the quality, the security, all these questions. And then it really, to be very honest, when you talk about translation in general, in this part of the world, it's a profession that people really don't value much, or it comes at a like an afterthought. You think of the strategy, and then when it comes to the translation, it's like the aftermath. Okay, it's now we finished the strategy. Let's give the strategy 4 months and 2 days for the translation, and we want it to be fantastic.
It's an afterthought. It's like mechanical.
Completely afterthought. So I was like, this is really weird. I have to do so much education and awareness to these clients that it's okay. Women working from home doesn't mean the quality is bad. On the contrary, you're going to have impeccable quality. We're not going to miss deadlines. And you need to understand that this service is very valuable. And if I don't convert your content in the right manner, you're going to end up unable to sell, or people are going to laugh at your content when it's out. So you have to really value the service. So I did a lot of awareness, and to be honest, I always stressed on the quality aspect of the service and how we do it, and that customer basically is always right. Customer comes first. The customer service has been always our really forte, and this helped me. So naturally, I had to move to Abu Dhabi because I had more business in the UAE. So it was a very natural move.
And you hit on a point that's really important to us, because one of our strategic pillars is empowering women. But you hit on a really important point, which is, I think there's a misconception about the caliber of women in our region, when in fact, they have a very high literacy rate, they have a very high educational rate, but however, their participation rate in the economy is low. So you talk a lot about flexibility. Would you say that is the most important reason why our participation rates are low, or are there other factors that you think come into play?
So I think when it comes to education, our females are definitely top, and they're actually, the numbers are even higher.
Yes.
It's not an issue of education. The issue is one, it's an opportunity. This is why I stopped using the word empowerment as much as I love and value the word empowerment, but I always look at women. Basically, we need to give them opportunity, not to empowerment, because women are empowered. They just need the opportunity. So if they're given the opportunity, they'll be able to do anything. And I look at it from the company in Tarjama, and even from the number of freelancers we interact with, and from other females across the board. The issue is flexibility is crucial. Most of the women that work in the company, either mothers or going to become mothers, and it's very difficult for them to leave their kids. They need to drop to school, back from school, they need to do some homework, they need to choose a little bit more of a flexible timeline. That doesn't mean they will miss deadlines. It's just about flexibility. The second thing is about, the maternity leave and all these issues are basically an obstacle for females. Like the other day, we just actually recruited a female, a new joiner to the company, and she just discovered she's pregnant. And she immediately came to us in probation saying, it's okay if you guys don't want me to stay, I completely understand. I was actually shocked from the idea that someone would decide to quit or actually fear that they might lose their job just because they're pregnant. So it's very difficult. The system
I've experienced this myself in the region, unfortunately. I mean, there is a bias towards,
totally.
I mean, when a woman walks in pregnant, it's basically a no-go, right? People don't want to deal with it, which is unfortunate.
Unfortunate, yeah.
But
So we
that's
just,
interesting. I mean, basically you're saying it's really about the opportunity, that they're not getting those opportunities. So,
they're not.
so that to me means it's a private sector issue.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's a private sector, government sector, it's across the board.
Right.
Women need the opportunity. They need to be given the opportunity. It's not still equal.
And
So
has COVID changed this? Because even in a market like the US that's very mature, flexibility in a lot of sectors was still an issue.
yeah,
But now you're saying that flexibility is coming, whether we like it or not. It's changing.
absolutely.
Do you think, have you seen already changes given the COVID situation?
I've been seeing more change, especially us, because we give the woman the flexibility to work from home if she wants to work from home, if she wants to work from the office. Our offices are open across all markets.
Right.
So we have been always seeing more females coming forward. But I'm seeing more from all the companies around me. Like I hear more people applying. And because COVID allowed people to even look at different geographies, we're actually experiencing some very interesting people applying to serious job posts in Tarjama from Europe, which is very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you can work from anywhere now, right? And I think it's
Absolutely,
great
no
for the country.
boundaries.
Right. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you don't see this as a cultural or home issue where the husband doesn't want the woman to work, or the
No,
father.
this is a big issue too.
Okay.
Yeah, I see it. Of course, I see it. I've experienced this with some team members. I've seen a lot of resistance in the households. Like you need to be looking after your kids, making it very difficult for her to work. Some females like hiding laptops, or so. No, I've seen this. It has been improving, and to be honest, when the woman gains financial independence, she feels completely empowered and totally capable of actually having her own opinion and participating in the house. So it changed the narrative. It used to
Yes.
be, I used to hear a lot of these stories before. Now it has changed.
Oh, that's good. That's good to hear. Hopefully it
Yeah.
continues. So coming back to now that you're in Abu Dhabi, and I know you have a lot of visibility to other cities as well. What's your sense of the entrepreneurial ecosystem today? How do you see it differently?
It's I have to say it's easier to enter the market than before. A lot of barriers have been lifted. A lot of financial support is actually happening. A lot more mentorship accelerators. All of these things did not exist when I started the business. So now I feel it's much more open. A lot of startups that or founders that exited businesses are now either contributing back as investors or as mentors in the ecosystem. So you feel there has been a change. How is it enough? Of course not. We can definitely get much more, but it has definitely drastically changed since like 10 years ago, for
And
sure.
if there was one area where you feel like still a lot more needs to be done, where would you look? What would you say?
I would definitely say that we still have an issue when it comes to funding. So we have, you can secure maybe seed and Series A. When it comes to big tickets, there's an issue.
Yes.
You can feel that we still need more accelerators, and we still need more venture capitalists, females maybe, and we need more female entrepreneurs in the region. So I still feel there's a gap in these areas for sure.
Yes, yes. And do you think that hinders sort of companies being able to scale in the region? Has that been a major issue?
Well, Amjad, this market is super fragmented, so it's scaling in the region has a lot of obstacles. One major obstacle is if you want to operate in a market like the Middle East, you're not operating from one country for the region. You're technically having 8, 9 licenses,
Yes.
sometimes more. and sometimes having 4 licenses in one country to be able to operate within the same country. So it's extremely challenging and super fragmented. So
hence you require more capital to break those barriers and challenges.
Totally. Capital, and sometimes you really need to work on regulations with the governments as well. So there's still we have a long road.
Yeah, so you've succeeded in sort of being in more markets. So I know you've been through that pain. If there was one regulation that you felt strongly needs to come down, what would you think that would be?
Licensing. I wish I can have one license that can allow me to operate across the Middle East without having any issue. Where I am registered, where my headquarters are, where my teams. Right. Because I have teams across the board. It doesn't really matter. So I can do the service from anywhere.
That's a great point. No, it's a great point, and I think where I think some governments miss the point is that a company headquartered in Abu Dhabi doesn't mean it cannot impact you positively. I know you have. I know you have a substantial team in Jordan, for example, but you're headquartered in Abu Dhabi, right?
Absolutely.
But you're impacting the Jordan economy, right? So
totally.
Yeah, I think this integration piece is really crucial, and it's something that we think a lot about, and we want to work a lot on this issue.
Definitely.
Do you feel like the UAE is heading in the right direction? They've made some moves, obviously in terms of ownership. How do you feel about that? Has it changed your life a little bit?
Not yet, but I'm hoping that we will see the change the coming 6 months, because now you don't have to operate in a free zone, which is a big deal. Because for me, I have a DED license, which is the Department of Economy license, and you have the free zone license, which are 2 different licenses. And then we have basically, so what I did is technically I had to do multiple licenses within the same country. But now we know that it's going to change. We're going to be able to operate with 1 license across the board for the entire country. I'd love for that to become maybe a GCC license for us to be able to operate from 1 country for the entire GCC would be great.
We're
but
working
again, yeah, exactly. And you have different Yes, I'd love to.
No, I think this is a super important area, and it impacts everything, right? If companies in the region can scale easier, they'll attract more capital, right? It's a chicken and egg thing, right?
Totally.
And people want to see more scalable companies, and we need that to attract investment and foreign direct investment. It's critical. Coming back to technology, because I want to talk about recently, you've sort of made a really interesting move to say, I'm doing business one way, but I need to evolve and I need to change and I need to sort of pivot and use more technology. Tell us a little bit about that, because I think it's very relevant to the digitization of the entire region in general. So you're taking sort of a leadership position by bringing it to your sector. So what have you done recently in technology, and more importantly, where do you see it evolving?
Yeah. So what I've done, Amjad, to be honest, in 2016, actually, we've been tech enabled. So we've been using third-party softwares for a while for translation management system, translation memory, all these technologies that can help the translators. But since 2016, I felt if we don't actually integrate technology by building it from scratch, we're going to be left out eventually. And we will, machine translation plus will be able to disrupt our business big time, because we're not going to be able to adapt. So I took a decision which is very difficult for someone who's not a techie. I'm not a technologist. I don't understand half of what the tech team says sometimes. I have to really educate myself. It was, for me, the first meetings with the tech team, I was like, what are they talking about? I don't get it. And when you look at your P&L, it's totally. And when you're looking at your P&L every day and it's positive, you're growing, you see, you really understand, I'm going to grow this service, I'm going to sell it, I'm going to make X. And then when you look at building and you're technically bleeding because you're just building, and it takes a lot of time to see So for me, it was like, no, 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 I can't do this. I need to really pause on the technology. And I had to remind myself continuously, like, if I don't push myself out of my comfort zone, if I don't build technology, we're going to be completely left out. And so what I did in 2016, I hired a couple of resources to help me build a product. And in the early days, we were brainstorming. What are our pain points? And we felt the company cannot recruit more the same way. We really need to scale. So I felt like freelancing is a big part of our day-to-day DNA. And it's very difficult to vet, get resources, and how do we scale? How do we get into new languages? So we built a marketplace called youread.com. In the early days, it was just focusing on freelance translators and writers. And then we pivoted that and we separated it as a separate company. We hired a CEO for it. It has a separate team. And it went into a complete set of services. So it covers engineering, developers, animators, designers, all sorts of services. And to be honest, when we built it in the early days in 2016, everybody was actually telling us marketplaces are very difficult to scale. You're not in the right space. You need to shut it down. Companies will never hire freelancers. Everybody wants full-time staff. And look what COVID did. What COVID did is basically now everybody wants freelancers. More business is so volatile. Nobody wants more overheads without actually keeping their staff busy. Even government now. And in the UAE, they just launched a visa for freelancers. They just launched a new regulations for remote work. They're embracing the entire business model has changed. Yes. So we felt like, okay, fantastic. Now we see YouRead growing substantially every day. And this is very cool. Like sometimes I look at the customers converting to the platform and I smile because I thought these people will never, ever use a marketplace, will never, ever put a credit card and use a marketplace. So it was very interesting. Then I looked at Tarjama and what does Tarjama need and what have big, large companies globally built that none of the companies in the Middle East have built from scratch. So we've been in this business for years. We have done so many words in translation. So we built machine translation to Arabic that is really, really superb quality and in different sectors from business to legal to medical to e-commerce. And then we built a translation management system, which is a tool that all our translators use and our clients, and we started selling it to clients. So this year, I think we have sold to 6 clients. So we started monetizing, which is great. And we're building
and this platform must have also unlocked, again, you're unlocking more women to participate, right?
Because absolutely. We're actually training females now.
Right.
We trained females in the universities, so we're giving it to university in Saudi and all females. We just finished the training yesterday. We're giving it to a big university in Lebanon as well. So we're starting to engage universities with us because all these translators need to study tools, because if they leave the university without having tools to help them in translation, they're going to be completely left out. So. Yes. So we're giving it, actually, we're partnering up with universities and training the females on the tools.
And from a business perspective, what are you seeing in terms of foreigners using the tool? I mean, is there a lot of activity outside of the region that is coming to youread.com?
A lot, actually, a lot.
So it's unlocked for you also clients more globally.
Definitely. We have not done any marketing globally yet, but we're actually receiving some jobs from neighboring countries, definitely.
I think that's interesting because that also acts as a marketing tool for the region, that, you know, people outside can come and get great quality products from people within the region. I think it's an interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, exactly. You have to push on that one for sure.
We are.
And So what's next for you? Like when you think about Tarjama and the growth going forward, you've included this innovation, this technology. Where do you see the focus for the next sort of few years?
So the focus is definitely more tech. What we want to do is really we have done really some cool tools for the Arabic language, and we feel Tarjama is very capable in building more AI for Arabic. So we're looking into big problems now, like problems that we suffer from, spell checker, like OCR into Arabic, because these are problems that we struggle with as a company when we want to translate or we want to um, use PDFs and turn them into Word documents. And so we're looking internally at key problems and we're building solutions around them. We're looking at dialects, chatbots training. So we have few customers that we're working with on these things, and we have great advisors that are advising the company, even some from global companies. So AI Arabic has been really our focus and will continue to be for the coming 2-3 years.
Yeah, no, I think it's great that you're bringing innovations to the region. When you think about AI and machine learning and all these new technologies, obviously the region borrows a lot from outside and borrows business
Sure.
models from outside, but we don't see a lot of internal motivation, innovation going outward. Um,
Mm.
why do you think that is? I mean, you've been around the region, you've talked to many universities, you've talked to many governments.
Yeah.
What do you think it's going to take for us to crack that? Is where we're creating innovation for the world rather than just borrowing all the time?
I'll tell you, it's two things mainly. This is how I see it. It's one, education. So when we look at, even we were talking the other day, because URED has an academy now and they're looking at doing boot camps for engineers. If you look at the education system, some of the computer science and like C++ and other material, like curriculum that is being taught, the language changes in a month. Like the technology changes rapidly, and
Right.
we really don't have that. So there is a disconnect between the education and what the market needs. And this is how you do innovation. Like you really need to either train on the job or get it in a boot camp or get properly educated in university. So technically it's education that can lead to innovation eventually. The other thing is we have not had innovation centers or experienced in basically getting students from out of university and putting them in an accelerator program and allow them to innovate.
Right.
It's you finish your school and you have to look for a job, and this is how it is. And then the ecosystem was not there. So the
Yes.
ecosystem now is being somehow born, basically, to allow some of these opportunities to happen. So this is why you just see even the big exits that happened in the region. There's definitely a lot of innovation for sure for it, but it's technically something that has been happening globally, and you're doing
Yes.
something like a mirror to it. But building some tech from scratch and innovating is still relatively to be born. So I think you
Yes.
have to have the ecosystem to allow it.
And you said you've been spending a lot of time in Saudi. What can you tell us sort of about the changes you're seeing there? Because it's very rapid.
Absolutely.
What are you seeing there, both positively and maybe even if it's not positive, what are you seeing?
So I've been honestly, to be honest, for the past 4 years, I've been seeing very positive change. So I've seen and noticed like the market has been opening up drastically. I managed to open my company very fast. It used to take me, like I tried for 3 years to open the company without succeeding. Now you open your company in like literally 15 minutes online, and in one day you receive the certificate. So this has been really, there's a leap for sure. There's a huge jump in opening companies. Uh, it's a huge market. So
Right.
we all know that Saudi Arabia is the largest market in the Middle East, and it's definitely for it opening up. is a great opportunity for everybody. You see a lot of funds happening now in Saudi. A lot of funding is going out of Saudi to startups across the region, and a lot of startups being built in Saudi Arabia. You'd be surprised, Amjad, the talent, and I'm talking about females. I've met brilliant Saudi women that are highly educated, super smart, even fresh grads that really are eager, hungry to prove themselves. So by unleashing that and giving females opportunity in Saudi, you're gonna see a lot of change. It might take time, but I think we're going to see a lot of big startups coming out of Saudi Arabia that are going to be interesting, and a lot of females as well.
No, I tend to agree. I mean, I've had personal experience with Saudi women working across companies, and they were really impressive.
Yeah.
I think just unleashing this should add significant GDP
Totally.
on its own. So,
Definitely.
and I see it. I think you're right. I think more and more are getting engaged.
Yeah.
You know, I think the ecosystem is improving, and I do think we will see great companies come out of Saudi for sure. I mean, if you think about it just from a scale advantage, they have the scale advantage. Their local market is the biggest market in the region.
If they sell locally, they're good enough.
Exactly. So I think naturally they're going to have some successful startups coming out of there.
I agree.
You know, I think the UAE still continues to be the number one in terms of attracting robust talent, but I think Saudi is catching up. I think they're getting there. It's getting very interesting. I'm wondering what role places like Amman can play. You know, they're smaller markets, but obviously they can play a role. You know the market very well.
Yeah.
What role do you think Amman can play in connecting all of this and continuing to be a relevant ecosystem for the region?
So Amman has been actually playing a role when it comes to human capital, Amjad, for a while. So Amman has been always, whether that talent is in Amman or it's actually being like leaving Amman and going elsewhere in the region. I think Amman's role, it will continue to be that. It will continue to be probably a hub for anyone who is looking to have talent in a market that's like a back office for companies. So you'd see a lot of big companies like Microsoft, Expedia, Amazon building at their large back offices in Amman because of talent and cost. So I think that will continue to be that. So you'll see more human capital coming out of Jordan. So this is basically our oil.
Yeah, no, look, fully agree, and I think that's what I try to advocate all the time, is that these ecosystems actually are very complementary. They don't need to necessarily compete. They add value to each other.
Definitely. No. So, and you can't compete. Like, the size of the market doesn't allow you to compete when it comes to if we're looking at scale now of business.
Yes. So my last question is for you now, what is the biggest challenge going forward? It sounds like talent is coming to you, which is great. What is your biggest challenge when you look at the market now going forward?
It's how do you scale within the same market without creating silos? Because now, if I look at the business today, I honestly have silos. Like, I have different offices, and I feel they are like, each one of them look at the other as if it's a different company.
Right, different entity, right.
It's a different entity. So this is, for me, has been honestly a struggle. It's like, how do we scale in one big market like the Middle East without creating small tiny markets across? Because this is extra cost on the business as well. This doesn't help the business scale smoothly. It's cost of operation, cost of companies, VAT, you name it. Like, even audit. Like, when I want to audit, I audit like 10 entities.
Yeah, that's very inefficient. Yeah.
it's not efficient. So these obstacles need to be completely eliminated for businesses like ours to be able to grow in a market like this market. It's a sizable market, but when you break it into blocks, it doesn't sound appealing for any company that's coming from abroad to this region. This is why probably companies abroad, when they come, they want to acquire business that has been through all this struggle, not to go through the hassle from scratch.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about Amazon buying Souk,
exactly, it's a shortcut.
It's a shortcut. I mean, they could have come in and if it was one unified market, probably put in billions and tried to kill Souk, but they've already been through all the heartache of all the licensing and the setting up the operations. And so, in a way, it's a double-edged sword, right? I think the easier the operation in the region becomes, the more competition you'll have. But I think in the long run, it's better to have more competition.
And I think one big issue that I'm seeing now is, where are your headquarters? You want to get business from our market, headquarter the business here. Right. And no headquarter it there. It doesn't really matter as long as I'm servicing you from this region. I should be able to get business from this region wherever I am. Absolutely. I will pay tax for your your country for a certain service different than other country, but that's my problem to worry about. But it doesn't really matter where I sit.
Yeah, I agree. And
I'm a MENA company, so I should be able to service the MENA from wherever I am.
Exactly. And I think looking a little bit more strategically about how companies end up helping economies is important, right? It doesn't matter where your headquarters is. I mean, if you can be headquartered in Dubai with 5 people, but 50 of your staff could be in Jordan.
Exactly.
Right. And so you're making money there. The government is being helped and they're creating income and they're living there and so on and so forth. So yes, definitely. I think a more pragmatic view needs to be in order rather than looking at these silos. So we hope to make that happen. But
I hope so. We will.
We will, inshallah.
We will. Inshallah. I think the UAE started, and I think many will follow eventually. So.
Agreed. I mean, the good thing now is that I think there's an impetus to do this, right? Everyone wants to progress. Everyone wants to create a dynamic economy.
Exactly.
So I think the momentum is with us. So I'm very optimistic about the future. So
me too.
With that said, I want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I can't tell you how much you're a shining example to all the young women who are trying to be entrepreneurs, and keep it up. And we wish you all the best.
Thank you, Amjad, so much. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for listening. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to EmpowerME Conversations on your favorite podcast platform, and please tell your friends about us. For updates on our work, follow Atlantic Council Rafiq Hariri Center and Middle East Initiative on LinkedIn and at AC Mideast on Twitter. You can also visit www.atlanticcouncil.org and click sign up to receive email alerts about the work of the EmpowerME Initiative. See you next episode.